Which network would you recommend?
Pardon me?
Which network would you recommend?
Is that a district laptop? Is that a district laptop?
No. Well, it's an ISD lab.
It's an ISD laptop. Admin guest.
Might need a little assistance.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's work session for the Ben Harbor School of Education. Secretary Gully.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here. Here.
Mrs. McGowan? Here. Mrs. Mommy?
Present.
Lisa Belly, present. Mr. Taylor?
Present. At this time, I'll ask for approval of tonight's minutes for November 10th.
I would like to have a motion. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, can we please move section 3 to the end of the agenda, the closed session? I would like to make a motion to move the closed session to the bottom of the agenda. Before other.
So there's a motion on the floor. I think in this closed session, if I'm correct, is the attorney present or it's just gonna be by phone?
And normally our closed sessions are, so I'm not sure why it's scheduled at a time that doesn't accommodate our normal agenda.
Yeah, so the motion's on the table. We need a second. Is there a second for the motion to move the closed session to the bottom of the agenda? Still no motion, because I have to vote on it. We're at a standstill, so,
The motion doesn't go forward, you don't get a second.
right, that's true. That's just. Right, right. So,
I think first, I will do the approval of the November 10th minutes first.
yes,
Okay.
Oh, Martha Mommy?
Yes.
Angelique McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
yes.
Ms. Belly?
So at this time, we need an approval of tonight's agenda. So may I have a motion?
I move that we approve tonight's agenda as written.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Martha Momedy, supported by Mr. Mitchell. Any questions, comments, or concern about tonight's agenda? That's all right.
Ms. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Mommy?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Belly?
Okay, so at this time, we'll have recognitions. Superintendent Walker.
Thank you, School Board. On behalf of the Mid Harbor School District staff, we wanted to bring before you several members of our staff that we wanted to recognize as we continue to try and acknowledge people who are demonstrating tremendous pride in the district and efforts to help ensure that our schools become schools of excellence for our children. So with that said, I'll begin with Ms. Brenda Matthews. Many of you may know Brenda's work. She is the receptionist. Ms. Matthews, if you'll come up here, Ms. Warren will greet you, shake your hand, and then we'll take a picture with you over here. Ms. Matthews works as our district receptionist and provides a lot of support to the district across a multitude of needs as staff, parents, community members come to her for help and support. And so we just wanted to take a moment to let you know how much we appreciate your commitment, your dedication. You're always in attendance, and we recognize your efforts to help us achieve excellence tonight. So thank you so much. And if I could ask Ms. Matthews, since she has any family members here tonight, if you could stand and we can applaud you for your support of us taking so much of your time. Our next recognition is Mr. Jeffrey Williams. Mr. Williams, many of you may know Mr. Williams is often here in evenings for our board meetings, but he does tremendous work in our district around technology. He helps to ensure that our students first have what they need to be successful in technology, but he is a tremendous asset and to support to the staff as well. And then, of course, in this community setting, he helps to get our computers set up and running. So we just wanted to take a moment and let Mr. Williams know how much we appreciate you for your commitment and your efforts to help us strive toward being a district of excellence. So we appreciate it. And I guess Mr. Williams, the chair, any family members here tonight that we could acknowledge for your sacrifice in all hours of the day. Thank you.
And we'd like to. Well, I'll use my teacher voice. My mic went out. Oh, it's bad. I think it's bad. Okay, we'd also like to recognize Desmond Mitchell. I know he told me, is he here? There he is, yay. Mr. Mitchell, for those of you who know, we'll call him first. Mr. Mitchell, for those who may know, he works here in our high school, but also serves in a supervisory role over our district security and hall monitors. And again, this is someone, Mr. Mitchell, has been so consistent in his care and concern for the district. He is quick to call, to inform, to make sure we know what's going on. He really monitors our students, our facilities, just a high interest in ensuring that the district is striving toward excellence. So again, if we could just applaud Mr. Mitchell. Next to the back, so we can wait, but I don't know if there's anyone else in the audience for Mr. Mitchell's family that we could recognize for your sharing of him when he does the work of the district. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you, school board.
So at this time, we'll have public participation. Pardon me, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address and any anything else you think? Chair.
Hi, President Taylor. Hi, good evening, board. Nice to see you guys. Hope you have a Merry Christmas. I won't chop in my 3 minutes, but Sharon James is my name, Nature Avenue, Ben Harbor. Coming to you this evening for a few reasons. The last hearing pertaining to Mr. Triplett held at the Lake Michigan College Mendel Center. It was indicated by one of the attorneys representing the school board that when the question was asked who paid for the investigation pertaining to Mr. Triplett's alleged misconduct, it was stated that the state of Michigan had paid for that. So I just wanted to say to the board and also to the community that this district is under a consent agreement. And I know the board is fully aware of that. And that consent agreement is relating to an agreement that involves the continuing operations plan, the projected budget and revenues of an expenditure, the cash flow projection, the recovery plan, including the procedures for cash flow, and why the state is paying for an investigation pertaining to Mr. Triplett. I don't know, but I will write my question down and maybe we can get that in writing, why the state of Michigan and which department at the state of Michigan has decided to pay for this investigation and why did they ask for the investigation. The other part of it is pertaining to Mr. Triplett is about determination, in my opinion, being illegal and discriminatory in nature. And when I say fraud, this is what I mean. The employer has made false representation. Being the board and the executive administrative staff, including the superintendent, knew of the false representation. It is my understanding that the Board of Education, after review of the video or hearing information pertaining to the video that was alleged that all these things that had happened that could not be confirmed as happening at all. So the board then came back and rendered a decision that it was their decision to decide no, not to terminate Mr. Triplett's contract. So, being that that has been the board's position, and the board is the final authority in this district, because as I stated, the consent agreement is about regaining financial stability. So if the board is being bullied, and I know that I've been on the board for 8 years, so, you know, I don't have to explain it to you and you don't have to explain it to me, because we all know what that bullying looks like, what it sounds like, and what it feels like. So that the board said no, and still he did not return to his position. And the board is the final authority, as I understand it. Again, with the fraud, there was an attempt or intent to deceive. You had the attorney-client work product that was leaked to the press, put in the paper about allegations. Those were HR personnel file matters that are to be held in a separate file. They were confidential and they were leaked to the press and they were allegations.
So Mrs. James, 3 minutes are up.
Already? Did
Yes,
y'all,
ma'am.
my brother? I don't think much. Okay. Well, somebody else come up and then I'll talk with you.
Thank you.
Come on up here. Come on up here. Y'all come up, so I take 3 minutes. Yeah, come on, so we take 3 minutes. And then somebody run the 3-minute clock. Those 3 minutes running like, sit down, tell them your name.
My name is Donette Scott. I live at 1070 Avenue, Michigan.
Okay, and then continuing on with the fraud, employer fraud is when you know that an allegation has been unfounded. It was stated in the paper in July sometime, or maybe even August, that it was for misconduct, and the misconduct, according to the Michigan Supreme Court, and the definition that they have rendered for misconduct has nothing to do with what I understand you are going into here about. Mr. Triplett has been harmed by this misrepresentation. The board was made aware in the spring of an allegation that a student brought saying that one of the executive administrators in this district had attempted to bribe that student to say that Mr. Triplett had touched the student inappropriately. Now, there's a retaliation, and Mr. Triplett has walked out June 20th. The defamation to Mr. Triplett's character. This board is going to have to be responsible for the final decision, as you are the ultimate authority. A former board member has already informed me of the harassment, the things that have been told and stated. There's evidence to these things, and they've been giving records and statements of these allegations. I'm really surprised, not by the board at all, because I know what pressure you're under. I sat where you're sitting, and I know the pressure that what we have to deal with. But what I also know is that no matter what the pressure, you're elected to do the right thing. Now, if you didn't have the courage to do the right thing, you should not have asked for your name to be on the ballot, and you should not have asked people to vote for you, because they expect you to have the courage. The city of Benton Harbor and the commissioners, they gave us and they showed us by demonstration that type of courage. They were being bullied, and they were being harassed, they were being harangued by the state, and they stood up and they fought for themselves, and they no longer have an emergency manager, and they no longer have an RTAB, because they fought for what was right and for what is right. When you say that this person is being walked out of the building for an alleged misconduct, according to what was in the paper, of coming out of the library looking disheveled, which there's no law against that, and the allegation and making the implication that something sexual has taken place or something just heinous has taken place with an adult and a child. And we all know the rules as board members, you know them. Was it called in to CPS? Was it notified? Was the police notified? All those things that Title IX and the whole investigation was brought down on the district for. But you guys all know this. I don't want to put all of this out here. But what I will say is this. You are allowing a contracted service, Barron Research, Human Resources, to violate and not do their job. Not, Joseph, you know what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Do you know?
I'm just trying to hold the public comment section, and so I just have to notify you that the 3 minutes are up.
But you have the right to extend me 2 minutes. Because you know I was the president.
Well, this is James, we want to make sure we have a lot of people in here. We want to make sure we have the public participation.
It's okay. She got more than 3 more minutes.
Everybody rotate out here for your 3 minutes.
Tell me your name and your address.
My name is Carolyn Loveland, 1159 Gardner Street, in Harbor, Michigan.
Thank you, Carolyn. Like I was saying, Mr. Taylor, Barron Reese has been hired as a contracted service. They have a responsibility and a job to do, and they have not done it. You have 40 plus employees that you let go of this spring, and the board voted in support of it. It targeted non-bargaining employees. Then you brought back non-bargaining employees in those same positions. Linda Harlow said to the board that it was to save $1 million. Now, these were grant-funded positions to save $1 million. You brought those people back and you paid them $48,000. Most of those people, with the exception of 4, were not making that much. And you voted for those people to come in and take those positions at $48,000, with the majority of them coming from Berrien Springs, where Ms. Harlow is from. They got 2 extras, so I know she know all of them. Okay, so I mean, it's a lot of dirty, discriminatory things going on that I don't know whether or not this board is paying attention to. I think because I know as a board member, when you bring something to me in May, and then you bring something relating to it back to me in July or August or September, I may not relate that. And I don't think you done it on purpose. I think they do it on purpose. Because you got rid of 40+ jobs. That's what you done to save $1 million. And then you brought them all back from Berrien Springs and other places and paid them, most of them, $48,000. I wish you would look into that. The other thing is, this is defamation of character. This is discrimination. When the class action lawsuit that is going to come from the 40+ employees that were let go this spring, because you received a staff report that says to consider from the superintendent to permanently lay these people off, to permanently lay them off. Non-bargaining, that's what she said in the staff report, and that's what you voted for. And then you brought back non-bargaining interventionists. You did that. You need to look into that. The discrimination about Mr. Triplett, the allegation against your employee that's alleged that your employee attempted to bribe a student to say Mr. Triplett touched this student in an inappropriate place, and then it's leaked to the press. Leaked to the press. A personnel matter leaked to the press. I want you to pay attention to that. I know my 3 minutes up. Yeah, you got me. I know. I know. Leaked to the press. Y'all, come on. Hello, somebody. Come on. Hello, somebody. Come on.
Hi, my name is Annette.
Can't hear you. Tell me again. Then you gathered information. You alleged that it was for misconduct. When it was leaked to the press, the allegation appeared as though, like I said, it was about being inappropriate with a student. Then they pursued Mr. Triplett's license. They came to the board and asked you guys to bring it back and vote against it again, to vote it down after you already said no. Now, if you're being bullied, you better stand up. You better stand up because you said no. And if you're double-minded, then you're unstable in all of your ways. Because this child said Mr. Triplett ain't never did nothing but right. That's what this child said. And that employee was contacted and asked on the telephone, and the board knew about it because I told them. Did you ask this student to say that? Did you take this child's cell phone? Did you have Gina Lovelace take this child's cell phone and stage it, put 5 cell phones on the table when you called the mother and told her to come to central office and made the mother think that this child had been using the cell phone and breaking district policy? And Gina Lovelace allegedly takes this child's cell phone. And when the parents or the guardians come back for the cell phone has been destroyed. So the child then shows me the brand new cell phone that the employee bought, that the employee paid for out of pocket and allegedly submitted back through the finance department and got reimbursed. And then Mr. Triplett gets walked out because of the conversation that was held with me as the board president at that time. So Mr. Triplett had 2 promotions. So why weren't these things are supposed to consider? Why weren't these things discovered by your contracted HR that you're paying all this money to, because that's their job. That's their job. You pay them for that, but it's not about that. It wasn't about a student then or now. That lady don't know Ronaldo from, like my grandmama said, Adam's house cat. This is coming from somewhere else. But when you put your hands in dirt and you get them dirty, you just as guilty as everybody else. Come on, somebody. Come on.
My name is Tamisha Johnson. Tamisha Johnson.
So now, it was stated, well, Ms. James is protecting Mr. Triplett. We took heed about the SIG grant because an agent of the state said that, well, Ms. James convinced the board. Ms. James did no such thing, and the board know that, because I didn't know anything about the audit until they told me at the same time they told you, which was central office did not do the work they were supposed to do on the administrative end, and because of that, the district was gonna owe a lot of money. That's what Cynthia LeGros told us as a board, based on what she told us. Just like we done what we done with Dr. Seawood, based on what was told to us. And then we found out what was told to us was not true. Now y'all know that, and I know that. So I know you can look bored all day long because you know I know. And that's the look I was expecting, to see if you was gonna be rattled, and I see you shaking at your core. I'll see you in court, because when you swear, you must tell the truth. And I have the truth in a state.
Good evening. Marion Triplett, 818 South Crystal Avenue, Benton Harbor, Michigan. And I'm coming before you as a follow-up. I would like to thank the superintendent. I did receive written answers to my questions at the last board meeting that I attended, but I do have a follow-up, and unbeknownst to me, similar to Mrs. Sharon James. But I did ask a question about the payment of Attorney Delaporte, and I was advised that it was paid for by Treasury based on the consent agreement. And I guess as a taxpayer, because my husband's situation will take care of itself, that's covered. But as a taxpayer, I am interested in any outstanding needs, additional resources that the students and teachers may require. The prioritization of what is paid for by Treasury or any other State Department according to the consent agreement done. And what role does the board have in asking them to revisit that? I had the pleasure to attend the Celebrity Readers event sponsored by Benton Harbor Public Library. I'm a board member there. And at the close of that program, students from Benton Harbor area schools band came to play. My children were in band, and it's been a couple of decades ago, but Susan Dietrich Reed, who was over the music activities at that time, made sure that our students were always properly presented to the public. The playing was great, but I was concerned because they didn't have uniforms, they didn't even have t-shirts who identified what school, what band they were from. And so, I just wonder about the needs that the students and staff and teachers have. And if it can be arbitrarily decided what will be paid for by Treasury, whoever that is, and at what level that decision is made, and/or authorized through the consent agreement, why can't they front-end load the district's coffers so that you start out and continue with sufficient funding to do what is necessary to bring the test scores, the social emotional relationship, the parent participation, the staff engagement, so that it's all there. Why does it seem to be, and I'm on the outside, but there appears to be conflicting priorities. So if I could get that responded to in the same manner, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Elizabeth McCree, 107 Water Street, Unit 203, Benton Harbor, Michigan. I'll start off by saying I unequivocally support Mr. Triplett, but I am here today because I have been concerned about some of our incarcerated youth, particularly those who have been waived to adult court by our trial court, which unfortunately has been happening way too often, greatly. I started email communication with the superintendent and several other members of the administrative staff back in the summer in regards to this issue, and there has continued to be concerns. There are many students who are incarcerated in the Berrien County Jail who are not receiving education services, and they are under the age of 18. They are pending charges, some are serving sentences, but many, as you know, are innocent until proven guilty, and they're still not receiving their schooling. Some as young as 14 and 15 years old. I was told that Mr. Hopstock from Berrien RESA is in charge of coordinating that program, both for the young people who are in the juvenile center and in the adult court. However, there are several situations where young people who are in the Berrien County Jail, the adult jail, are not receiving their education resources. When I brought this to the attention of Berrien RESA, essentially they sent me to the sheriff's department. However, if these students continue to be enrolled in Benton Harbor area schools, just as they would be with any other school district, it is the district's responsibility to make sure that these students continue to receive their education. And with so many instances happening just in the school year alone, I would like to have some type of response from the Benton Harbor area schools in regards to this. When we were in communication this summer, I was told that there was going to be a proposal that was going to be brought to the board during the October school board meeting. I appeared during that meeting and there was nothing on the agenda. I'm here today and have had a chance to review the agenda, and again, I don't see anything that's listed in regard to any type of plan or programming for incarcerated students. And I know that there are teachers at the school who are interested in doing so. I believe some of them are here tonight and that are willing to do what they need to do to come in and make sure that these students continue to receive their education as they are pending charges. The federal government, both through our legislature and through the Supreme Court, has determined that education is a due process right, and it's a due process interest in their education. So not providing that to them without an appropriate cause is a violation of federal law, and it's also been codified in state law. So it is something that I deal with because I represent so many juveniles, but as well as just a concern that I have with issues throughout our county and through this school district of making sure that these young people who are the most vulnerable, because they are facing criminal charges, that they continue to get that education, because they need to be able to at least have that preparation if they do end up serving a sentence, because they're going to have even one more barrier or roadblock in front of them to try to get work and be a productive member of our society. So I just ask that there be some type of response from the board or from the administration as to what is the plan for incarcerated youth who are in the Berrien County Jail.
Thank you, Ms. McCree. Hopefully Dr. Walker.
My name is Lisa Thomas Berry. I live at 1015 AR. To back up what Ms. McCree just stated, I have a 7-year-old first grader granddaughter that attends Holt. That 3 weeks ago, she was given a verbal extension from school because a teacher called her Janiyah, and her name is Zaniyah, and her back was turned, so she did not know that they were talking to her. So when the teacher walked up to her and grabbed her arm, she pulled away. So I guess that was physical. So they sent her home verbally with a handwritten note to her mom that she had 10 days suspension. And she would hear from Mr. William Bledsoe if there were more days. That's 3 weeks ago. Her mom waited a week. No response. No mail came through. Her mom called the school 3 times. I told her every time she calls to record her conversation. No one returned her calls. Then she called the administration building, and the young lady you just acknowledged for her good deeds took the message and transferred her to William Bledsoe. No one called back. Last Friday, I called Mr. Bledsoe. I left him a voicemail message. I had it recorded. He didn't call me back. So I stopped in at the administration building, and the young lady, Miss Brenda, I explained to her that I had been trying to get in touch with Mr. Bledsoe. She said, no, I had not. She said, because if I had, I would have had to go through her. So I let her hear my voicemail message where she answered and said, let me transfer you to Mr. Bledsoe. Then on top of that, I did speak to Mr. Bledsoe within an hour. After that, he said I could come back with my granddaughter's mother. Mind you, it's 3 weeks. Nobody contacted us. I had to go to the administration building. While y'all taking all this time trying to send somebody to the prison to find out something about Ronaldo, y'all got a 7-year-old sitting at home for 3 weeks, not in school. And y'all still ain't contacted. I did the contact. Y'all should be paying me. No, I'm serious. This is a 7-year-old. Y'all talking about expelling her when y'all had 6 kids on this trip for the college that snuck out the, y'all need to know nobody know, that snuck out the hotel, and when it got high and got caught, they wanted them expelled, but the board said no because they're seniors. We don't want to expel them, just give them 10 days. But you want to expel a 7-year-old? Something ain't right with that. Something's not right. So y'all got y'all concerns on something that's past the education of these kids. You're talking about Mr. Triplett. He got more years than y'all got. I'm sure my 3 minutes up, I just saw Lisa Chase, but I can count 2. I graduated from here. But I'm just saying, I understand, but y'all got y'all priorities mixed up. They know. They know.
Anyone else for public participation? So at this time, we're about to go into closed session to review of a legal opinion, to discuss specific pending litigation, and review collective bargaining strategies. And Martha, you can give us a motion.
I sure will. I move that the board convene in closed session pursuant to section 8C and H of the Open Meeting Acts of Michigan to consider the written legal opinion of counsel Clark Hill, PLC, and to discuss collective bargaining strategies.
I also move that during the closed session, we consult with Clark Hill PLC about specific pending litigation recently filed against the district and named administrators in the Court of Claims, because the circumstances satisfy the criteria of Section 8E of the Open Meeting Act.
May I have a second? Motion by trustee Mark Hominy, supported by Angelique McDowell. Secretary Love.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mrs. McGowan,
Yes.
Mrs. Mommy,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes,
Mrs. Gurley, no.
thank you.
And I will not be attending the closed session, because of the nature of what's being discussed.
Okay, so at this time, we'll go into closed session and we'll come back as soon as possible. Thank you.
We have,
session? Moved by Martha Momini, and second. Supported by Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yeah.
Ms. McGowan? Mrs. Mossy?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Ms. Gillies?
So at this time, we'll go to business and finance. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. For some comments on the monthly financial reports. Thank you. We'll start with the general fund summary of vendor payments. You see on this report, the largest payment was for the balance of the tax anticipation note with Chemical Bank. This note was fully repaid on November 1. Moving now to the capital projects fund report. Payments for this month were light again for October and have increased in November for the high school roofing project, which is now well underway. Turn next to the check register. The two large payments to Chemical Bank were also for the tax anticipation note. And finally, the year-to-date budget report. As of October 31, the district had received 27.6% of the total revenue budget. And on the expenditure side, the district had spent, as of October 31, 17.8% of the expenditure budget. You have to respond to any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? You can proceed with the audit report.
Thank you. Pleased to welcome our audit team from Hungerford Nichols. I'll turn the presentation over to them.
Thank you so much for having us. My name is Adrienne Trumpet, and I'm with Hungerford Nichols, and I'm the shareholder in charge of the Benton Harbor audit. We did meet with the finance committee at 5 o'clock, so I'll keep my comments brief, and we'll just kind of talk about one statement. Should you have any questions after that, you can always ask me, ask Scott, and you're always free to contact me at any time. I'm just going to look at briefly at the financial audit, which is, I believe you all have copies of that. It's the larger, with the spiral bound binding here. At the very front, with our letterhead, it says Independent Auditors Report. And first and foremost, I just want to let you know that Benton Harbor received an unmodified opinion. And while that sounds negative, it's actually the highest audit opinion that we can give. So first and foremost, you received a passing grade for your audit. Beyond that is what's called the management's discussion and analysis. And I know for many people, these types of reports can be very laborious and boring. But I would encourage all of you, if you look at nothing else, to read this section. It's about 5 to 8 pages long. It's the Reader's Digest version of the audit. It's the most English version, so it's pretty easy to understand. It doesn't have a lot of accounting jargon. It's a nice summary of the audit, and Scott also writes part of it, and it talks not only about what the district has gone through over the past year, but it also looks ahead going and some factors bearing on the district. I'm not going to go through all the different parts of the audit. As I said, we met previously. I'm going to just go over page 20, if you guys would like to turn there. This is the budget to actual report, and as you know, budgets in a school district environment are extremely important. They're becoming more regulatory in nature with the Michigan Department of Education as well. And I just wanted to kind of go over a few numbers here. There are 3 columns. In your original budget is what you would have approved in June of 2015. So there are a lot of assumptions used in that budget. You don't know what your student count is gonna be, you don't know what your state aid allocation is gonna be. So it's kind of your best guess at that point in time. Your final budget is what you would have approved in June of 2016. And at that point, you obviously know your student count and your state aid allocation, but there are still a lot of changes that happen during the summertime that can impact what you used to make that budget. And then the actual column are the actual audited results. So you can see on this statement that you had budgeted to receive $26.7 million in various categories. And you received just under that at $25.9 million. On the expenditure side, you had budgeted to spend $29.3 million, $27.5 million. So you underspent your budget by $1.7 million. So you were able to save expenditures there. I kind of want to highlight this next line. In my opinion, this is kind of the line you should focus on because it tells the true story of the operations of the district. You had budgeted to add to your deficit of $2.5 million just on operations. And you only used up part of your deficit of 1.5. So if you kind of go down the page, if you go to the next line, it looks like you're getting additional revenue of the $4.3 million. So the total net change in fund balance is adding to your fund balance of $3 million. So at the beginning of the year, you had a deficit fund balance of $14 million, and at the end of the year, you had a deficit of 11.6. I just kind of want to point out that while it looks like the district reduced the deficit, that $4.3 million is an emergency loan from the state. So it's not from operations. If you look at operations alone, we have to go back to that line that says excess or deficiency of revenues over expenditures. And looking at pure operations, the district had expenditures in excess of revenues of $1.5 million. So I just kind of wanted to point it out because I think that this statement can be a little bit misleading without having an understanding of what this emergency loan is. You get the money now and then you pay it back to the state going forward. There is in the footnotes of the audit, there's a complete detailed section of the loans that the district has with the state of Michigan. And you're free to review that on your time. I just wanted to point out that we also did a federal compliance audit as well as a financial audit. And there are a number of findings that were noted in this audit. We did meet with the administration and we talked about some policies and procedures that could be put in place to kind of minimize those findings going forward. This audit did receive a qualified opinion, which in school terms would not be a passing grade simply because of the findings that we had during our testing of the federal programs that the district has. So that is a quick summary. As I said before, we met with the finance committee for about an hour and we went into these financial statements in great detail. But I'm happy to take any questions that any of you may have at this time.
So you talked about the additional reports, this one?
Yes.
And so talk to us about internal control over the financial reporting. Was there a deficiency in that?
Are you referring to a specific finding or just in general?
Just in general.
There were a number of internal control findings that we did find. A lot of them have good reason for them. However, in a federal compliance audit, I can pull 60 samples, and if you don't pass even just one of them, then I have to mark it as a finding. There were more than one cases of non-compliance. So there are some issues that obviously need to be fixed. But as I said, we did meet with Scott and David, and they have put some procedures in place. If you go to the very last page of this audit, it's actually on Benton Harbor Schools letterhead. This is the corrective action plan. So these are a summary of all of the findings that we've had, who we have determined to be responsible. And then Scott has actually written a summary corrective action plan. I know he has a more detailed one of the steps that he and his team are trying to do to prevent them going forward.
Scott, so make sure everybody gets a copy of this that he gave to us tonight. This is the detail of how they're gonna correct anything that there was a problem with.
Where's that?
I think he gave it to the finance committee.
Those are that are not the finance.
Yeah, but Scott's gonna make sure he gets it.
Any other questions for our auditors?
If you do go back and look at it and anything pops up, as I mentioned before, any of you are free to contact me at any time, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, revised FOP.
In the digital packet, a draft of the FOP revision. Just want to share a few quick reasons for the refresh. Some of the reasons include to update the 2015-16 financial data to include actual data rather than budgeted 15-16 data. Also to update projected revenue expenditures for 2016-17 and beyond. And to additionally update the 5.5-month-old cash flow projections. And the cash flow projections are now extended through March of 2018. We've also updated the debt payment obligations, updated the estimated property sale proceeds and the timing thereof, and updated other revenue inflow and cash outflow estimates. Also updated the FOP narrative. And final reason for updating, refreshing the FOP is to fulfill Treasury's request to update the FOP.
Thank you. Any questions from the board concerning the updated FOP? Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Human Resources, Instructional Staff. Kelly Baptiste.
All right, good evening, board. I come to you to request again that we make an exception to voting to hire 3 staff members. And I presented the staff reports here. I'm not sure if you have to take a motion to see if you're voting tonight or if I can just read the reports.
I think whether we vote or not, I think the board needs time to look at the supporting documents from staff report number 1.
No, I thought we took action at the regular meeting, but
Correct. And so I think, Kelly, the question would be, why do we need to vote tonight instead of next week?
Well, so that we can get these positions filled at ACA in particular. They've gone without ELA for quite some time. We found a candidate who could fill that spot, as well as some other movements that are occurring.
I would like to see all the applications.
I think he's tentatively hired them in place until
Until the work session? I was not aware of
Until
that.
the regular meeting next week.
Correct.
But just a point of clarification, I know that this is new to you, but always remember that at the work session, we don't take action. So just do your planning accordingly.
That is perfectly fine with me. So that's fine with me. That was just my impression that if we needed to do an emergency hire, we request that you would vote at the work session. Let's present the supporting documents for the candidates, which you have there. And I can answer questions.
So can I clarify so that we have an understanding that we are getting permission if we need to fill a position until the voting, the regular board session is over. The board does support us starting members prior to the vote. I was under the impression that, we had to get the votes. So make sure.
I do not.
We have in the past started employees prior to the actual time. Martha,
That was just the teacher. That was just the classroom teachers.
My concern would be legal obligation. If we can do it and then they get voted down and then they are no longer employed, then there's no legal problems, then I'm fine with that. But if we hire them and then we vote them down and that puts us in a legal position to give them a job, then I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, it's my understanding, and I think Charles was here, my understanding that if and when an employee is hired prior to work rule, they are hired on the contingency that it is work rule. So I don't think there's a legal situation, but I don't know if Ms. Turlow, you want to come up and speak to this, or if I'm properly presenting what I'm learning. So you can allow us to put them in place under the condition that we inform them that they are not legally employed by the board until the vote, but in terms of expediency, and it would only be in those situations where time is limited. So anything, during the summer, prior to the start of school, they would wait for the board meeting. But now that we've started school, as Ms. Baptist has said, we have classrooms with substitute teachers. We're able to put actual teachers in that room. Then we were requesting the vote so that we can go ahead and get them started.
I have read the supporting documentation, so I'm comfortable with doing it.
So we have a board member at the table that wants to see the other applicants before maybe we decide to vote on it. That'd be okay for the board, so that Kelly, that Peace can get us that information. And it's just 4 days, right? Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, we'll be right back.
So you're saying we vote next Tuesday, correct?
Well, that would give Secretary Gully all the information that's needed, so that we can take a vote next Tuesday with all the documentation in hand.
May I also ask a question in the future? Would you all like to see all applications that we get in for each position that we are hiring for? Just so I can know.
I think it would be good. So if that's the will of the board, we'll come back next week for the vote on this, as we wait for the documentation.
Do we have them late to start, or are we able to let them start?
I don't know that. I think it's, right, it's just 4 days. It's just Thursday, Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, so they can start Wednesday, based on the documentation we get. For staff report number 2,
So that's the same thing, yeah.
same thing.
We'll just go with the supporting documents. You'll see English language arts teacher, physical education teacher, and then the assistant study program. So it's, we'll have those supporting docs.
So do we need to go over these items before we move on board? Are we satisfied to bring it all back next week? Okay. All right, Mrs. Robinson, curriculum, 2016 summer program review.
Good evening, board. I just have to give just a brief overview of some of the summer programs that went on this past summer. So we ran 3 programs, credit recovery program. We ran the freshman orientation as well as a jumpstart. I believe you had an opportunity to review the slideshow. So for the credit recovery program, the whole goal was to help students gain credit that they failed at for our 10th through 11th grade students there. One of the big highlights was that it ran from 4 to 6, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday. which allowed more of our students to work and then after work come to the credit recovery program. If you look at slide number 3, for that credit recovery program, there were 106 students who received credit, and there were 31 students who dropped out of the program. And listed on the bottom of that graph shows you all of the courses that students were able to participate.
And this credit recovery was completed under the new rules and regulations of doing credit recovery?
It was completed under the new rules. We went through the laws of Michigan Department of Education, as well as went over our expectations for the out-of-year program that we utilize as well. There were several different ways that students could get the credit, so we would be able to do that without being upset. And then the challenges were just ensuring that we had adequate staffing, and which we did. We had adequate staff during that time, since it was after the professional development, and then making sure that students attended the program. So our freshman orientation was for our incoming 9th graders. We had 3 goals there. The purpose of the program was that our freshmen would help them improve their behavioral outcomes, so they all understand the culture of the building. If you go down to the slide where it says observations, there were 163 students in the 2016-2017 freshman class, and 57% of those students attended their orientation. And currently, we have 58% of our students who attended the freshman orientation who do not have any referrals. That was one of the requests from the RIC committee that wanted to know how well our students are doing. There was a survey given to our freshmen who attended that. We just picked a few questions from that survey. And as you can see, most of them, 81%, thought it was very helpful for them to attend the program. They thought the information was useful, and then also they thought the facilitators did treat them respectfully. Our final program that we ran was a Jumpstart program. That was 2 weeks. We went with an outsourced company to provide support for us while our teachers participated in professional development. The campers who attended that program completed a survey as well. And they were just asked several questions. So, learning new things, 22% of the students learning new things was one of the best highlights of the program. And then we can also see the outcomes and challenges that we had with the program. Questions you have?
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, Ms. Robinson. Some time ago, when Mr. Pearson was here giving a report on the high school, particularly the senior class, we had asked for some information regarding the 10th, 11th graders also, and how they were as far as their credits and where they fell in the process of being on time for graduation. And I haven't received, I don't think any of the other board members may have received that, but could you see if Mr. Pearson has that information available?
Yes.
Because I did receive a letter last week regarding my granddaughter from Ms. Rodez, and it was very helpful because it spelled out what she needed to do as far as being on track to graduate in June, and how many credits or so forth that she needed to have in place by June. And I think that was very helpful. But I'm still concerned about the sophomores and juniors to make sure that they're proceeding towards that goal. And if they have to do the summer school piece, we need to know that.
So I will get that detailed information for you.
Any Any other questions for Mrs. Robinson? Mrs. Harper, special education.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The state of Michigan, the Office of Special Education, several years ago, came up with an idea that, not only do the programs need to be accountable for what they're doing, but the district administrators and the school board need to be kept in the loop in terms of, how we're meeting our compliance issues. The indicators that districts are looked at for are child find, making sure that students who have a disability who may be eligible for special ed services are brought into the fold, and we make sure that we provide them with those services. Early childhood transition, the transition of students going from the ages of 3 to programs of preschool and into the K-12 programs. I'm coming to you this evening because of the third prong of that, which is the timeliness of IEPs. One of the requirements that the state has given me and every district in the state is that the additional requirement is that the information be shared with a broader audience than the special education personnel, which typically tended to be what happened over the years. The district improvement team and the local board of education must be informed of this activity. What I have presented to you is kind of a breakdown on how we did last year. The baseline for the information they take from the year 14-15, where 83% of the Michigan school districts were cited for late IEPs. And 15 of those districts were in Berry County. Based on that baseline, they sent out information to me to say how Benton Harbor was doing in terms of the timeliness of the IEPs. And this is information for last year, and I will come back about this time next year to give you the information for this present year. But for the fall 2015, IEPs that were greater than 365 days, say an IEP is done today on the 6th, next year it would be due on the 5th. So you only have 365 days, and then there's a rollover, and you have to have another IEP to talk about whether programs and services are appropriate, whether goals and objectives are met, and how they need to be tweaked. Like I said, for fall 2015, 8 of the 305 IEPs for the students that are in our district, 8 were not done on time. That's 97%. For spring 2016, 12 out of the 380, again, that's 97%. Overall, we had 15 for the school year of 2015-16. For active IEPs being 403, took us at 65%. Now, there's two conditions that we have to put together a corrective action plan. The first is if we have less than 95%. Now, we had 96, so we're okay. But we had more than 5 late IEPs. That being the case, we have to put together a corrective action plan. And what you see before you are, we have to talk about what are the current conditions that contributed to this. The second, moving forward, what plan do we have in place that is going to start addressing this and to monitor it closer? So looking at some of the reasons that we had late IEPs, we had a loss of 10 special ed staff last year. And that impacted with long-term subs that resulted affecting 100 students. So given that we had less of a population of certified teachers that actually could conduct those IEPs, we had to combine, we had to support the subs. So we inadvertently got 15 late IEPs. Then we had an increase of student evaluations. This year, the number of requests for evaluations has gone down. When I first started last year, I think I had a request for evaluation of about 5 a week when I first started. This year, the number has gone down, but there are still concerns, and we are still under child find to make sure that we have students brought into the fold that are eligible for services. What are we going to do from this point forward? Myself and the supervisor, Dr. Covington, are doing more monitoring in terms of what's going on. Part of the problem I do have is the fact that I not only am the director, but I'm also the supervisor for the buildings, which means I sit in on IEPs across the district for every building except the Discovery Center and the high school. Coordinating those efforts with the special education teachers is a hefty burden, but it's one that we are doing great things in terms of coming around and getting those on time. The thing is, because I can access the software the teachers actually do the IEPs on, I can check the dates. It comes up for every single building of the district. The information comes up on my computer so that I can check it out. The monitoring of it will be on the IEP software, which is Illuminate. And in addition, I've been meeting with the staff every 2 weeks to talk about where we are in terms of getting the IEPs done, what are some of the concerns. And we currently have, again, several subs in the buildings, and so the certified teachers are assisting those teachers. Any questions? Like I said, part of this is a requirement from the state, that I need to share this information no later than February 2017, which is why I asked to be on the agenda.
Secretary Miller.
So do you have the documentation from the state that cited you on their findings? Could you share that with us so we can actually see what they said and what the findings actually were?
Okay.
And I guess, this is large because it says for 1 year, a total of 15 students didn't have an IEP.
They had IEPs, they were just late.
They were late.
Yes. So what I mean by being late, if I have an IEP, like I said, that we did today, next year it's going to be due on the 5th versus the 6th. So some of the IEPs may have been opened and started, but they were not closed until, say, the 7th or the 8th. Or because of having a sub in the classroom, being able to set that up and getting the information to the subs and getting the subs set up with another teacher to come in and actually put together goals and objectives and create the IEP because they don't have access to some of the software. And then we also switched out subs. So if I have a sub today and they put in so many days, they are no longer able to continue their contract, then we have to replace. Again, we're starting a whole new batch of IEPs trying to get them done. So anytime you go beyond that due date, it's considered untimely and that you're over. It could be 1 day, it could be a week. Okay, any other questions? I will get you that information.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So Dr. Walker, the fifth, and also the 2016 board member election results.
And so clearly, I think those of you here have noted that our technology has failed us. We may not be able to fix it. And so I apologize for those of you that can't see. The board does have in front of them our district improvement plan, quarterly report. And what this report is because we are under consent agreement, as has been noted several times earlier, and in that consent agreement, we are under what's called an education plan with the Department of Education. We are required, the consent agreement requires requirements to report out to the Department of Education progress. Simultaneously, by way of the district improvement plan, we are also required several times throughout the school year to report out progress. So in working with the Department of Education,
Thank you. Oh, so in working with the Department of Education, we developed what we call a scorecard. And this scorecard has identified the core areas in our district improvement plan / educational plan. And in those areas, the leadership team, in conjunction with Dr. Teasley, you all met at the prior meeting, we developed some areas or metrics that are within our district improvement plan that we could measure during this school year, every quarter, to determine our progress. So what you have before you for the curriculum implementation and instruction district improvement plan, there are several metrics that are identified: curriculum basics, the PLC agenda items and minutes, which are meetings that are held within the grade levels every 10 days. There are walkthroughs that the leadership team does, as well as building administrators, where we go into classrooms and we collect specific data about what we're seeing in that classroom. And so those examples of metrics, we also identify what is a reasonable goal that we should meet by the end of 2017. If it was applicable, what is the reasonable baseline? And then for each metric, we identified a quarter 1 goal, a quarter 2 goal, quarter 3, quarter 4. So quarter 1 ended November 4th. And either last month's work week or the month before, time goes quickly, the district approved Julie Boleski to handle the assimilation of all this data for this scorecard. And so this is the work that she did, taking the different metrics that were determined in conjunction with the Department of Education and the leadership team. So over here in the last column are the results. So when we talk about curriculum basics as a checklist that we use to ensure that our staff follow a required protocol around conversation, implementation of the engaged your curriculum from their summer work. We said 100% of those checklists should be completed on all grade levels was our quarter 1 goal. And what we noted when we collected the data was 54% have completed checklists, and out of 7 out of the 13 grade levels had them. We had some issue getting those checklists from grades 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Therefore, we would not have met that goal for quarter 1. For the second metric, we were talking about PLC agendas. We said 50% of our grade level meetings will always have a focus on the thoughtful classroom, while 81% of them have that in their minutes. We don't have all the minutes, but we had 100% of them had the metric in their minutes, but we only had 81% of the minutes, but all of them had it, so we clearly met that second metric. The third metric, specific to pacing guides, we said we want 20% of our teachers using the pacing guides, and our walkthroughs indicate 59% of the teachers whose classrooms we did go into are using the pacing guides. We said for the students, when we have conversations with them, are they aware of what it is they're supposed to be learning? Our first quarter goal was that 20% of the classroom students can do this. And again, these are all new expectations that have been presented to teachers in a formalized way through this curriculum, and as we shift our focus to improving achievement. And so, as I'll show you in another one of these tabs, by the end of the school year, and well, actually it's here, you can see our expectation is to have 80% of our classrooms using pacing guides, 80% of the learning targets. So we do have a higher standard for, giving opportunity for our staff and our administrators to learn these changes. So 46% of our students were able to, in the walkthroughs and the rooms that we did, able to talk to us and tell us what the instructional focus was during that period. For the posted learning targets, the expectation that teachers identify and have up visible what the learning target is for that class during that period. We were again at 20% of the classrooms having those posted, and we actually have 74% of the classrooms visited do have their learning targets posted. And then there's a leg to this where we now want to start looking more at data. And so we're expecting the buildings to post the student data. It's a new metric again, as mentioned. It's a new procedure. So at the time the data was collected, understanding and that process was still being defined. So we didn't have any of them posted. Like I was at MLK yesterday, and they're just posted right inside the door. So we will meet this target, but again, some of these variables are new, and we were hoping to have that available and posted before quarter one, and we did not achieve that goal. And so I won't go through the whole list of items here, but just to give you context on how to read the chart, you can see when you start to look at each of the metrics that are in blue, and then look at the last column, you can see the quarter one results to show that there are some areas where we did not meet the goal that we set for ourselves for the first quarter, and there are many areas where we have met that goal, because if you look at the first column, we were looking at curriculum instruction, we had some metrics for student achievement, we had metrics for cultural climate, and we have metrics for leadership capacity. Some of these we haven't begun to assess yet. We'll assess them in the second quarter, as you can note as you read the spreadsheet. But this will be done every quarter and shared with you, and I just wanted to make sure you had eyes on it to see if you had any questions at this point to provide this data to you, which is also then used by the Department of Education to ensure that Benton Harbor is meeting the obligations outlined in the consent agreement via the education plan.
Any questions or comments concerning the VIP quarterly report for Dr. Walker?
Thank you. Also, I wanted to just make sure that officially the board had a chance to observe the election results and just provided it to you so that you can see by each of the different townships and by those persons who were up for the election, where their votes came from and the number of votes. Just information. So just make sure you had a chance to take it all. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Walker.
Thank you.
So at this time, under open session, Truman Law Firm, Attorney Delaporte. Action item regarding administrative employment. Attorney Delaporte, on our screen, we have one item on the agenda under Truman, but I'm informed that the paper copy has two. So
that is correct. There were two action items. The district intended to bring two separate actions. Affected administrator, through their attorney, requested a continuance, an adjournment, and we did adjourn the second item. The first item we kept on the agenda and brought it forward today because it was required by law. With your permission, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'd like you to open up your packets. Within your packets, you should see a couple things. The first is a letter from your superintendent with a recommendation for dismissal and contract termination. This is dated December 6, 2016, and in a minute I'll let you review that document. Right behind that, you will find an order from the Superintendent of Public Education which suspends the affected administrator's certifications, both his teaching certification and his administrative certification. That has a legal impact on your ability to retain that individual. I'll talk about that here shortly. Behind that are a couple of more letters indicating that the suspension is for 1 year and that continuing to employ this individual can result in significant state aid penalties. And again, I will talk about that in a little while. Behind that document, you will find a Berrien County Justice System Public Access history report, as well as 3 certificate renewal documents. And those documents indicate that there was a false statement made on the application for renewal, and that is the basis for the Michigan Department of Education's action in suspending this person's certifications. Next, you will find a copy of that administrator's contract of employment. I would like to direct you to the second paragraph, and it would be the 6th line down at the end. If at any time an administrator fails to maintain all certificates, credentials, etc., this contract shall automatically terminate and the board shall have no further obligation hereunder. We are here to provide the affected administrator an opportunity to respond to the Michigan Department of Education's actions. We are not here to relitigate whether that individual has a suspended license, suspended certificate, I'm sorry. That has been determined by the Michigan Department of Education after a due process hearing, and we have no role in that particular process. That decision has been determined. It's been determined by the Superintendent of Public Education in a formal order, which was part of the very first page of the packet. Lastly, we have a recommended resolution that we would, the district would recommend that the board act upon tonight. In the prior to beginning my presentation, I ask that the board take a moment to review the recommendation for dismissal and supporting documents. time to let me know when you're ready to move forward. Members of the Board of Education. This district and this board is governed by the laws of the state of Michigan, in great part, by the revised school code. Section 1248 of the revised school code sets forth certification requirements for administrators. Section 1233 of the revised school code sets forth certification requirements for teaching professionals in the school district, both of which require an individual who is employed by a district to be properly certified. Section 1246 of the revised school code was amended in 2010 to include a prohibition against continuing to employ an administrator who had their administrative certification suspended. In this particular case, the affected administrator has had both his teaching and administrative certifications suspended for a period of 1 year. You cannot, as a matter of law, continue to employ this individual. If you do so, and I tell you this to notify the board as per my duty to protect the board itself and individual board members can suffer both criminal and financial penalties if you continue to employ this individual. The Department of Education has indicated a willingness, should you continue to employ this individual, to enforce the financial penalties contained both in the revised school code and the state aid act. The financial penalties, under their view, I'm not sure I agree 100% with it, but under their view, would total somewhere in the range of $386,000 plus any additional payments and wages which are paid to the affected administrator. So we are talking at this point in the 2016-17 school year an amount above $400,000 that the district could suffer. Now, I would hope that we could defend the district up to the date of December 2nd of 2016, as the district board members did not have prior knowledge. However, they do intend to enforce it going back a period of 6 years. Again, that is a significant amount of money. It's in excess of $400,000. The statute is very clear. The statute states that the school district, and I'm quoting from the statute, shall not continue to employ a person as a principal unless that person meets one or more of the following requirements. That's the certification requirements. The affected individual right now is not certificated either as an administrator or as a teacher. The district is banned by state law from employing that individual and is mandated to take action. If you fail to take action, as I pointed out, there are potential criminal and financial penalties. Additionally, the district itself can be hit with some very significant financial penalties. This is not a case of what one person said or what another person said, or whether something happened or whether it didn't happen. In this particular case, the Michigan Department of Education has conducted a hearing. In fact, it conducted several hearings, providing the affected administrator with the opportunity to respond to the charges that he had statements on his applications, thus subjecting him to possible penalty of suspension. The affected administrator was involved in those hearings, had an opportunity to litigate this, and the order of the superintendent of public instruction is contained within your packet. I would ask you to turn to the third letter. It's the letter from Stephanie Whiteside dated December 2nd, 2016, and I will point out we did not receive this, the district did not receive this until December 5th, so until Monday, we did not receive this. I would bring your attention to the second paragraph found midway through this action, and they're talking about the suspension of both the administrator certificate and the teaching certificate renders him, the affected administrator, ineligible to teach or serve as an administrator in a Michigan K through 12 public or non-public school. This is not an action that was taken by the district. This is an action that was taken by the Michigan Department of Education. They held a due process hearing. They provided the individual an opportunity to respond, and they took their action. Their action was to suspend the certifications. That leaves this board with no other choice in order to comply with the law, but to remove that individual from their position. I will point out that the contract itself between the board and the affected administrator terminated by its own terms. Was canceled by its own terms in accordance with the plain language of the contract. The contract indicates that if the person loses their certification, that the contract terminates automatically. Okay, so there's no action necessary to cancel that contract, but we would ask that you take affirmative action so that we will have it on the record and therefore show the Michigan Department of Education that you have taken appropriate action under state law. I would ask now that once I have a chance to offer the affected administrator an opportunity to speak to you, I would ask that you offer that opportunity to the administrator, and after that, take the appropriate action in keeping with state law. State law mandates that this Board of Education shall not continue to employ. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, so the, said that based upon the findings of the Michigan Department of Education, they found through a due process that the convictions were not reported. However, could you please explain the application process when a person applies for an administrator or teacher certification? Could you explain that process? Does it include a background check?
The renewals do not include a background check. The background checks are actually done by the districts. The misdemeanors that were in question, the activities that were in question were not the kind that trigger penalties under the criminal history background check. So it was not necessary for the board to take action over these particular instances.
I guess I'm confused. But now it's required that we take action now
Because he no longer has the proper certification.
because they took away the certification for something that doesn't trigger criminal, because it's like civil, I guess I'm confused.
My job here is not to speak for the Michigan Department of Education. I can only speak as to the duty of the Board of Education.
I understand. I worked at a courthouse, I understand, because most people think that driving while license suspended is a civil infraction. So, I understand.
Anything else?
Any other questions, comments from the board concerning the documentation given to us by Attorney Davenport? At this time, Mr. Goodlett, can you come to the podium?
Good evening.
Good evening.
How you all doing? Good to see you. I do have something here that I would like to share with the Board of Education. Before I do my presentation or present to you all, I do have an opening statement that I would like to make. That I'd like you to read this too. And once again, first of all, I would like to say to this community and to this esteemed Board of Education that it has truly been an honor to, first of all, be formally educated in Ben Harbor Area School, to graduate from Ben Harbor High School in the 103rd graduating class, where I served as the class president, to go away, represent my school district in a manner that I am so very proud of, receiving my bachelor's degree from Grand Valley State University in 4 years, coming back teaching in Ben Harbor for 25 years. Majority of my matriculation, my work was in Ben Harbor area schools. I made a conscientious decision to come back home and to give my work to my community. I wanted to be able to help those kids that look like me, to be that type of example for those students and to let them know that you can make it. After I started teaching for about 20-something years, I kind of felt like I had outgrown the classroom and how I, wanted to find a way to be able to help more students. Very, very, very successful teaching career. One of my proudest moments was when I taught at one Montessori magnet school, which that school was like the #3 school in the state of Michigan. And when I taught my students, our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, I taught language arts there. And 97% of our students were always proficient, nothing less than 94% of our students. My students were proficient on state examination before that was dismantled and dissolved. But I have to say this, and I wanted you to look at this because the recommendation that he gave me, that's all he needs to give to me because I'm very familiar with this process. I've been going through this process. But I want to say to the Board of Education, when the first hearing that we had out at college, I really did not, I have to apologize to you all because I really thought that you all knew more than what you did. And I was really, as a kid, I was feeling some kind of way because I have known everybody, all of you all sitting here for many, many, many years. I have taught alongside, or not, taught directly with Ms. McGowan and taught alongside with Ms. Momini. Mr. Mitchell has been just a leader, mentor in this community, known him all of our lives, basically, been old enough to know people. Been knowing you, you know what I feel about you. You were the pretty baby that came home from the hospital, one pretty baby. And this is my classmate's little brother that I'm very, very proud of, who is now our Board of Education president. And when I sat in that hearing and I saw you all get this packet, and you had never seen this packet, I was shocked. And that's when I realized they really didn't know everything that was going on. I, personally myself, it has been horrific. I have never in my life been so professionally offended in my whole entire professional career. This witch hunt, and that's all it is. And it's so wrong. You just don't do people like that. You don't. It all started with a lie. It went from inappropriate to the perception. I was talking to my attorney because at that time I didn't know that the state was paying for this. Dr. Weatherspoon. I didn't know that. And I thought our board, our district was paying for it. And I told my attorney, I said, you know, I said, you've been very honest with me. And I said, if there's things that I wanted to say, don't tell them this and say this and say that. And she would correct me. I said, and this attorney is milking our school district out of a lot of money. Because even in the midst of it, I was still thinking about our school district and our community. Because he's not telling the truth at all. And so I became aware, Muskegon Heights, Highland Park, all of these districts that look like Ben Harbor area schools that are now charter schools or high schools closed down, all of these different things. I started to understand what the game was about. In April, and Mrs. Robinson can attest to this, about at the end of spring break, I received a call from the superintendent. And the superintendent offered me an assistant superintendent position. And she told me that you would make more money. And I said to her that that was not what the Lord told me to do, that I was given this position, this job at the high school, and this is where I'm going to stay. She called me back. She said that I had until Tuesday at 5:00 p.m. to let her know whether or not I was going to accept this position. And it was out of her hand. And that Dr. Weatherspoon and people at the state of Michigan had told her that I had to go. That I had to go. And Tuesday, when she called me back, Ms. Robinson was in the car. They had left the state, had left Lansing. We were talking, they were traveling, I was traveling home from vacation. And she said, it's out of my hands. And I really didn't know what that meant, but I knew that I had to stand on what I thought was right. I did, I had to stand. And so, after that, on my phone, and I don't want to give out too much information, I received a call from one of my parents. And we were at the coronation ball at Lake Michigan College for the Blocking Time Festival. And I got a call, and she said, a text, and she said, my mom is trying to get in contact with you. And I'm thinking it's about one thing and found out it was about something completely different. I stepped out of the ball. I called, and this grandmother said, they're trying to set you up. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And she went and explained everything to what was going on, that one of my students was taken out of this high school. The parent was called. The parent was taken into another room, and that student was taken into a room. There were 5 cell phones placed when the parent came in. There was an African-American gentleman with mingled gray hair. And there was a lady who had an accent that was involved in it. And the superintendent of school. In this particular room that this parent went into, these 5 cell phones were there because they wanted to get her son's cell phone. And the 5 cell phones were set there to show that, to make her think that they had 5 or 6 kids, the same complaint. And so when she saw the 5 phones, she gave them permission to take her child's phone. They took it, they damaged it, and you've heard that. I, at the coronation ball, chairman of the Miss Ben Harbor contest, Ms. Herlo is the chairman of the Miss Barrington Ring contest. After I really heard all of the stuff in the parking lot, I go in and I ask her, what is the procedure to file a complaint against the central administrator? I didn't know that she already knew what I was talking about, but the look on her face because we've been working with each other for years prior to even coming to the school district. She told me this as a friend. As a friend, and if you say this, I will say that I did not say it. That's what she told me as a friend, because she was my friend. So I thought, she told me that if I filed this complaint, that my career would be ruined. I was at a standstill. I really didn't know, because I didn't know the information, and after the information came, I was crushed. For 30 years, 33 years, the most disgusting thing, and nobody is perfect, but my kids mean the world to me. And for somebody to come in and take one of my students and try to bribe one of my students to say something that I did something to one of my students, I was devastated. This situation where they talked about transmitting the video of one of my students, the integrity, the thing that makes it so horrible is the simple fact one of my students was terribly violated. Terribly violated. And the forensic evidence didn't come off of my computer, because unbeknownst to the district attorney, the board attorney, that was sent to me early in the morning. The email with the response that my attorney stated came in the afternoon. There was nothing attached to that thing, nothing. When that information was given to us, my attorney, from a fragment from a cell phone, a district cell phone that I didn't even use. I stand strong today because I know it's not true. There's some things that could have been done different. I'm not going to sit here and just try to humiliate our school district, because I still have that kind of respect. It's not important for everything to go out to our community, because regardless of the outcome of this, I'm going to still love Benton Harbor. Always and forever, and I'll be able to work in different capacities and what have you as it relates to my community. To come into this district in February with 27 allegations. This attorney asked me, was there drug deals going on in my office between my students and I? But one of the allegations, and I know our Board of Education did not know it. This situation right now, with my license has been suspended for a year. My teaching certificate has been taken away from me for nothing. And my administrative certificate has been taken away from me for nothing. This is wrong. For tickets, 1984. Jesus. 1989, 1986, and 2001. But this is the deal. I'm gonna tell you what they did to me. And I'll take whatever it is. I don't have any choice, because I don't want you all to put our district and our school in jeopardy. Ever. And I'm good.
Yes, you are.
I have been respectful. I have been respectful. Every superintendent, every person that ever came into this district, like it or not. The sheet that I gave you on November the 4th, there was a conference, an informal compliance conference with representatives of the Office of Professional Preparation Services. It was held. On that call with myself, because by this time I know it's getting dangerous, their death rate is getting really, really low. Mayor Muhammad was on that call. Mayor Pro Tem Seat was on that call. County Commissioner Marnell Seek was on that call. Sharon James was on that call. I had 9 people that was on that call because I didn't know what they were going to do. They asked me, if you look on my certificate where he showed me, have you ever accepted responsibility in a civil infraction, excluding speeding ticket, or been convicted of or pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor or a felony? On my certificate, I answered no, because I don't have a felony. So I'm thinking tickets, and I did not know that a ticket with driving without your license on person is a misdemeanor. I did not know that, okay, you got a ticket and you're driving with suspended license. These tickets were paid and everything, but I didn't know that this was classified, quote unquote, as a misdemeanor. So I thought they were just tickets. So the first meeting with them, as you can see, based upon the information presented prior to and during the informal compliance conference, it is the decision of the Office of Professional Preparation Services to take no action. That was on November the 4th, because they said that I marked no on all of them consistently, and so I did not know. The next day, I sent an email to get clarification to Stephanie Whiteside. The email came back clear. I will be out of the office until November the 16th. I called the office, talked to her assistant. He said that nobody could change this, did not have access to do anything with this site with the exception of her. The letter that you got from the state superintendent and from Ms. Green, I called Ms. Green. Ms. Green did not return my call. This too was applied. I'm just shocked that the Michigan Department of Education, or I don't know who the state is. I really don't know who the state is, who's pushing on. I don't know who these people are. So on the 16th, I knew she would be back the 17th that morning. I opened my email. I have a letter saying that there's another conference for tickets from 1984, 1996, 1989. I was 24 years old, and I'm 56 right now. When I called back and had the second conference, I said, I'm done. I don't need anybody else to be on this phone call. I'm done. When I called back, I knew then their tone was so nasty. And I just answered the question. And they said that they asked me at the last conference, was there anything else? And I said no. And I did say no. Because when they asked me, was there anything else? I thought they were saying, was there anything else other than tickets? They could have asked me if they really wanted to resolve this, say you have other tickets. Because see, the fact remains, when you run a report, and you all have a copy of this, you can't run a report for one ticket.
Right.
The whole report came out. So when you put that letter with me with the 2001, you already had all of that stuff.
Exactly.
You already had it. You already had it. And my Board of Education, I know that you have to do what you have to do. But I have to say this. I feel horrible that this was allowed to happen to me by my peers and my friends, that this was allowed to happen to me. It's been a tough 6 months. It's been very difficult to be accused of things that you know that's not who you are. And that's the only way that I made it, because I knew it wasn't me. People can say who you are, as long as you're not who they say. I have never in my life, as I told my attorney, I'm a professional. I have a master's degree in educational leadership. You all are attorneys. And there's a thing called, there's an ethical imperative that must take place. Everything that was asked, I lied about everything, according to the board's attorney, who said he was not representing our esteemed superintendent, but he was representing the board. When the leak, which was done on purpose to humiliate me, with my attorney and I met with your attorney. Your attorney asked, because there, what would we take? And my attorney told him, no, you all bring up offer back. But if this stuff was all, I want to close with this. For 4 or 5 months, I didn't know what this was about. I never saw any charges. I didn't know what it was about. I really did. So I suffered. I suffered. The only solace I had is I know that I just what was being murmured around. But I was asked, and I told her, my attorney was called by your attorney and said, if you resign, this will go away. And my wife and I said, at the same time, you mean to tell me you have an allegation that somebody has violated one of these kids? I don't care if it's me, I don't care who it is. Are you gonna let this go away? I said, go forward. Because there was nothing in the beginning. Then you call back again. Because see, I'm 56 years old, but my babies are 17 to 18 years old. But you were willing just to get a resignation. I called and I asked, for your information, I got a bill for $4,000. And I would have to pay $2,000 to get this information from Human Resources. And there was somebody on there making $92.31 an hour. And it would take them 11, 12, 14, 15 hours to find the things I was requesting. We have spent thousands of dollars of our own money. Our own money. Finding falsehoods. This was malicious.
Yes.
It was malicious towards me. But I wanted to let you know, I want the board to know. I just wanted to let you know that I really, just as you got this today, affidavits of teachers, things, my colleague, unsigned, unnotarized, in here. And everybody saying the same exact words. There's no affidavit from Mr. Johnson, he was with the administrative team. There's no affidavit from Mr. Bledsoe, he's with the administrative team. And I don't know if you guys ever saw the video, but you should look at it. You owe that to me. You owe that to me to get to the, you owe that to me. As far as what you have to do, I talked to them. They hung the telephone up. The next morning, it was in our hands at our home. That night, my license was suspended. That I worked for. Jesus. I worked for my stuff. I didn't cheat. I earned everything I got. Thank you.
No public participation is over. Any questions or comments to Mr. Triplett from the board? Well, but at this meeting, we have to have order as well. Yes, sir.
I want this to be on the record too. Ladies to our Board of Education, I was in a meeting when I was an administrator here, and I walked up to this individual. The board meeting was getting ready to start. And he said to me, "Don't come up to me with that ghetto nigga shit y'all talk around here." And I felt bad. And I said, "What for you to know what that is, you have to know what it means. Don't come up to me with that ghetto nigga shit y'all talk around here." Thank you.
So, Attorney Davenport, we have the resolution.
Members of the Board of Education, within your packets, you have a proposed resolution. This addresses the mandates of state law. I again note that this is an action of the Michigan Department of Education. They have taken their action, and now that leaves the board in the position mandated by state law to not continue Mr. Triplett's employment. The resolution within your packets would accomplish that action in compliance with the law.
Any questions or comments from the board members concerning this resolution? Does this have to be voted today?
It would be recommended that it be voted today. If it is not voted today, you can incur penalties, and the Michigan Department of Education could choose to invoke the full range of penalties. It would be my recommendation, this be the first meeting immediately following notification from the Michigan Department of Education, that you take action.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes, sir.
This happened quickly, but there is an appeal process that we'll be going for. There is an appeal that I have put in process to the appeal committee, but they're all in the Department of Education, but I will be appealing. And for my attorney to say also that there is an option that you don't have to, my employment, you can suspend it until the appeal process is going forward, or investigate that and have Mr. Delaport to investigate it.
Is that
Remember,
correct?
it is correct that there is an appeals process. It is incorrect that you can suspend him, and he would therefore remain an employee, though he would be on suspension. That would be in violation of state law. The appeals process is a two-step process. The second step being the superintendent of instruction for the state of Michigan As you can see by the letter sent by that superintendent of instruction, the superintendent has already indicated his decision.
So I would ask the motion would be to accept the resolution as stated.
Yes, Mr. President.
So may I have a motion to accept the resolution as stated from True Law Firm concerning the decision to terminate employment pursuant to state law and the employee's contract?
I move that we vote to terminate employment pursuant to state law and the terms of employee contract as mentioned in the, I don't know what you call this, the paper we received, resolution that we received.
I have a second.
Supported.
So moved by trustee Martha Mahoney, supported by trustee Anthony McDowell. Any questions or comments before we take the vote? Secretary Belli?
Martha Mahoney,
Yes.
Angelique McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Gully? No.
Motion passes. I'd like to tell Mr. Triplett, you know I love you, but,
Y'all some liars.
well, man, this is not about you. And so,
It ain't about you.
so Mr. Triplett, based on law, in front of us, we don't have a choice.
My child wasn't here, and I would never say I'm a living year that he never did nothing like that in life. And I know he's a good person. Y'all discriminate his name and discriminate him. And I had boys one here for years, and I know he's a good person. And I know he's somebody who would never do that.
Ma'am, this had nothing to do with
Yeah, this got something to do with y'all hurt that person.
This is
Y'all hurt somebody deep down inside. Do y'all want to be hurt like that and treated like that?
No, we don't, ma'am.
No, you don't. So feel what he feel. Feel what he feel.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm telling what I know.
Thank you.
I tell what God love.
Thank you.
Cause I got boys who was here. I got boys who went to school. He was going to my kid. He was there. But he asked.
He was cheating. He
Thank
said
you.
some
That's good.
You was over there with your business.
That's good.
I know. It's okay. We got listening to yourself.
So so superintendent comments?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, President. So I wanted to inform the board that the vacancy candidate letters we received 2 letters. One from Ms. Noletta Seats and the other from Ms. Adoria Stokes. And so as the board chooses to proceed, those letters are on file at the district office. That would be all my comments.
So I noticed you had board vacancy letters. No comment on that?
I'm sorry, maybe go ahead. We have 2 letters on file at the district office, one from Marletta Seats and the other from Adoria Stokes on file. And then as the district determines its next steps, those are available.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have board comments. Mr. Mitchell? No. Angelique McDowell? Mrs. Mommy? Secretary Belli?
This has been a very difficult process, and I'm not pleased with the outcome.
It's all right. It really is. Understood.
This is so wicked.
Yeah.
And I just hate that I even voted for the superintendent.
Yes.
This is a witch hunt. And this shows that
We have to take care of our finances because we're being pimped by the state, because we're in a financial deficit, and we're under this consent agreement. So it doesn't allow us to even have an open-minded opinion. Really? 33 years? Driving while license suspended? Are you serious? And we're supposed to impose the law, but they want us to break the law and come into the office and review documents that wasn't presented at the first hearing? Individually, one by one? Come into the office. I told the board, and this is me speaking, and it has nothing to do with the other board members' opinion. Nothing. This is my opinion. And it's just sad that somebody can destroy someone's life, their career, their dedication to this school for driving while license suspended. That is so unheard of. So now what I would like is to have an investigation of who did the leak. Who leaked the information to the class? I want that investigated. I want to investigate it now. And I also would like an investigation of everybody's application who worked for the school district to see how honest they were on their applications. Did they report everything? Did they report all their misdemeanors? Can the state pay for that? Since we don't want to pay for teachers to give them an adequate salary, can we pay for other investigations to make it fair across the board? Yes. Let's not just target one person, let's make it fair across the board, because I just can't believe what I've been witnessing and all of the tricks and the trade and the persuasion they've been trying to coerce and duress. I worked in the courthouse. I seen it. I worked right in the courtroom. I sat there and saw how what just happened tonight, how it happens to most of the black males in our community. And like Ms. McQueen came and spoke to our youth, mostly all the black males in our community are transferred onto adult court. However, outside of our community, they're given the opportunity to do that home youthful training act or whatever, so that they won't be on their record and is dismissed. So mostly everybody outside of our community, no matter what kind of charges they get dismissible probation. However, we get convictions. So I seen how the system works. Nobody can tell me any different. And then to come and threaten my freedom, and then to threaten our district with astronomical fines of something that y'all imposed on us. So there's checks and balances. When we first received the consent agreement consultant, she went through everybody's certification, Cynthia LeGros, and made sure everything was adequate. And they did an audit. So why didn't this come up then? But now it's very serious and detrimental, and it's gonna cost us this money, and it's gonna do this and do that. But you know, it's just like mind-boggling. I know that you all have to follow the law, so let's make sure we follow the law in everything. How we're spending Title I money. Yes. How we're following policy, because policy is not being followed. How HR practices are being handled. Let's make sure we're following the law all day and reprimanding those who are following it. Because after tonight, it's on. We have to do our due diligence, not just with one individual, but from here on out. I respect y'all opinion. I know y'all had to do what y'all had to do, but I'm not privy to threats. Not at all. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, this meeting is adjourned.